At that point, I felt my heart stop. I held on tightly to Shiko's hand, my best friend whom we had travelled together with, unaware of the historic events we were about to witness. "It's not yet over," she muttered, almost in an inaudible whisper. The deathly silence, though, made her voice reverberate throughout the whole stadium, as if she had spoken through a microphone. I could feel the tension and uncertainty in her voice, her desire for victory. I sighed nervously. Everyone waited with bated breath. Our hearts uniformly struggled to pump blood as fast as our anxious bodies demanded. It was like we were watching a horror movie where the villain steadily made his way where our much loved star was hiding. It would all end in tears for us. Only this time, the villain was England's team goalkeeper, David James. With every deep breath, we hoped he would not stop our star, and with each second that passed, as we waited for the referee's whistle, the dread in our heart grew. I hoped for a Robert Greene miracle, just in case. He would have easily missed the penalty regardless of how Asamoah Gyan kicked it. I breathed in heavily again and whispered a prayer. Let Africa win. Please, Lord. Please, Lord. Please, Lord. Please, Lord. Let Africa win. Just this once. Please, Lord. I closed my eyes, only for 1 second. I was afraid if I extended it, I might miss the moment of Africa's glory or would-be moment in the World Cup. The referee was just about to blow his whistle. I cast a glance at Asamoah Gyan. The weight and expectations of an entire continent were on his shoulders. What a burden to bear. Around the stadium, we were all quiet, our eyes pregnant with expectation and full of hope, yet fearful on Asamoah Gyan. We were all hoping, and not just us in the stadium, but all around Africa. Cars were halted on the road as drivers turned on their car radios. It could best be described as the traffic jam no one was in a hurry to depart from. The no idling signs in hotels, cafes, and restaurants made no sense as everyone sat quietly, visibly anxious, clenching onto their vuvuzelas with shaken fists. Would their buzzing sound fill the African night, or would they be drowned out by the drunken celebrations of the English fans who for the first time seemed outnumbered by the sea of African supporters? All of Africa wanted it so badly, such that the suspense and the wait was killing us. Workplaces had closed down earlier that day, even though the match was to be played much later on in the evening. Nobody, nobody wanted to miss the final of the African World Cup in which an African team had made it to the finals. Supper had been prepared much earlier than usual in most homesteads. Even the Al-Shabaab had lifted their ban, disallowing people from watching the World Cup matches to the delight of Somalis. Our bodies began fervently shaking shortly after Ghana had beaten the cheating Uruguayans in the quarterfinals before meeting up with Brazil in the semis. That had been quite a match. Kaka picked up a red card. Fabiano almost scored another handball. However, Richard Kinson was on high alert with a superb save, preventing the high-powered Jabulani ball from making its entrance at the bottom left corner of the goalpost. The second almost goal for the Brazilians had come minutes later, with Kinson tipping the deflecting ball away from the goal thanks to a shot from Kaka, who later got a red card in the dying minutes of the game for a bad tackle on Dede Ayew. I love Kaka, but at that moment I liked Dede Ayew more. The second half saw Ghana regain their confidence. They resumed playing beautiful, with links up between Asamoah Gyan and Kevin Prince, almost resulting in goals several times. The injury time goal came from Kevin Prince Boateng after a superb pass from Suleiman Tari. The celebrations were wild as we cheered for Ghana. We were all proud. As a matter of fact, the headlines the next day read, "Well done, Ghana. You can come home now. Ghana wins the World Cup." It was more than we had expected. The display of class, discipline, talent were all too much. The Ghanaians, who are fondly referred to as the USA team, a United States of Africa team, had proved a point to the whole world. At the final, Ghana had come out all guns blazing. The English team, wanting to prove that their Premiership stars were also World Cup stars, fought harder than their arrogant and aloof newspapers led by the Daily Mail imagined. After 120 minutes of entertaining football, with both sides relishing winning the World Cup hungrily, forcing the two goalkeepers to make save after save, leaving us at the stands on our feet, unable to sit down, our hearts beating like the tum-tum drums. President Jacob Zuma of South Africa was there. I thought I saw him throw me a smile a couple of times. But after his shower after the act advice, all I could do was smile back disapprovingly. Nelson Mandela had graced us with his presence as well. If Ghana won, this victory would mean so much for Africa. Maybe in it, Kwame Nkrumah's vision and dream of a united Africa would be achieved, because Africa would have won too, especially over their former and what most people don't realize, current oppressor, England. The Ghanaian players, alongside their goalkeeper Kinson, were kneeling down. Kinson could be seen mumbling a prayer. All eyes were fixed on Asamoah Gyan. Would God help Africa? John Mensah, Stephen Appiah, John Pastel had all scored their penalties. As for England, Wayne Rooney and Steven Gerrard had scored with Jamie Garanga missing. Asamoah Gyan glanced at the ball, as if whispering some words to Jabulani, trying to convince it to allow Africa to win. Before kicking it with his right foot towards the goal, we waited, mouths wide open. Our eyes followed the ball for what seemed like an eternity. It seemed to be moving in slow motion. It was like watching a replay. David James dived to his left. Gyan's shot looked as if it was about to hit the top bar. Our mouths fell. Our hearts sank. Chico's hand dropped mine. I could see Kinson's hand falling to the ground, but it took a deflection. We looked up again, and it was in, right in the middle of the net. It was a goal! It was a goal! Goal! Oh, screams of joy filled the stadium. Chico grabbed my body for a hug. It was like we were in a frenzy. Asamoah Gyan ran towards the corner and did his usual dance. We all danced along as the other players, led by Kevin Prince Boateng, Dede Ayew, Sule Muntari, jumped on Asamoah Gyan, causing him to fall on the ground. The rest of the players on the bench and technical bench joined the players at the farthest left side of the pitch. Kinson knelt down, hands lifted up, praying. Tears flowed easily. For those who are not overwhelmed, their vuvuzelas blasted through the clear but cold night, letting the whole world know that Africa had won the World Cup. It wasn't the vuvuzelas or the noise of the fans in the stadium alone. If you listened carefully, you could hear the celebrations from North Africa to the Horn of Africa up to the Soccer City Stadium, where I was standing, overwhelmed by an indescribable joy. I heard the noise all around Africa, cars hooting, people shouting in various entertainment joints around Africa, men and women shouting out their hearts in their home. In that moment, I felt like a young African woman in a calabash celebrating an African victory. My tears flowed freely as a young Caucasian man, rather good looking, also pulled me for a hug. In the end, we all had our hands around each other as Ghana prepared to lift the World Cup. I turned, just in time to see Jacob Zuma smiling at me again.